Welcome to Growing Tall Poppies, Thrive After Trauma. I'm your host, Dr. Nat Green, and I am so excited to have you join me as we discuss what it means to navigate your way through trauma or significant challenges and not just survive, but to thrive after it. This is a space for people who've been through trauma or adversity, have done some healing, and know they're meant for more than just coping. This podcast is about post-traumatic growth, not getting back to who you used to be. Rather, understanding who you are now and learning how to stand tall without shrinking, forcing, or abandoning yourself. Here, we explore identity after adversity, integrity and visibility wounds, nervous system wisdom, and what it really takes to move forward in a way that feels aligned, embodied, and true. You will hear a blend of deep solo conversations and powerful guest interviews with people who have lived this work, not just studied it. Because growth doesn't come from pushing harder, it comes from understanding how you adapted, honouring your nervous system, and gently updating the old agreements that no longer fit the life you're ready to live. If you're ready to stop hiding, stop performing, and start owning who you are becoming, then you are in the right place. Let's grow tall together. I'm super excited today to bring you our next guest on the Growing Tall Poppies podcast. It's my absolute pleasure and privilege to welcome a very dear friend of mine who I've known for a few years now, like
just a few
decades. And honestly, I'm so excited to have her on here and for you to meet her as well. She does have a considerable trauma and adversity history, and through those she has found her calling and is a wonderful example of a tall poppy constantly shining her light brightly despite her adversity. So let me introduce my beautiful dearest friend Bron Watson to you all. Bron Watson is a nurse, educator, entrepreneur, and was founder of The Social Coach, which is recently retired, and her latest, most amazing project, the Serenity project. With decades of experience as a registered nurse and educator, Bron has long been drawn to spaces where care, communication, and connection matter. In 2012, she founded her first business, empowering business owners to share their voice online with authenticity and purpose. And over the past decade, her work has supported absolutely thousands of people to show up in life and business with intention and impact. And I'll get her to talk more as we go through today around the Serenity project. So let me start by welcoming you, Bron.
Oh, look, thank you for having me, my beautiful friend. Finally, we are here.
It's been a little while in the making.
It's been a while, but here we are.
All right. So let's start with you giving us a brief introduction of who you are and what you are doing in your world now.
Wow. Okay. So as you've all just heard, I've actually had a dual career in both nursing and in marketing. So there are different times over the past 3 decades that I have worked in those spaces. And obviously in the last 14 years, I've run my own business. And each one of those seems to have had these learnings to get to me where I am. So in 2017, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and full-fledged mastermind program in terms of my business. We were mentors and you know all the things, right? Workshops, retreats, the mastermind. We're doing all of the things. And then suddenly you get hit with a diagnosis of breast cancer with no plan B. So we went through all of that and I thought I'd done all the work. No, I thought I'd done a lot because I remember was probably not even a month after the diagnosis of breast cancer. We've had the mastectomy. We're now starting chemotherapy. Someone said to me, if nothing changes, Bron, you know it's going to come back, don't you? One of the many, many traumatic things that people feel they need to say to you when you're having these crises. So I was terrified that my life as I lived it, remembering I'm a mother of 5 boys, I've got beautiful Paul, my husband, and gave my heart and my soul to my family, to my community, to my business at the cost of my own health. That was the biggest learning going through there. So needless to say, I shut down that mastermind overnight after my second diagnosis of cancer. Now, the reason why that happened was because 4 hours after getting out of hospital, out of a cancer institute, following chemotherapy for breast cancer is brutal. And it really is. And here I am on a Facebook Live delivering what I say I'm going to deliver to my people. And I caught a glimpse of myself, right? And I'm thinking, oh, who's that? In shot, it's me. I'm bald. I'm bright, round, red-faced. And I'm on a Facebook Live to my community. And I thought, and I remember distinctly catching my eye and looking at myself and pointing, going, do you want to die? You keep this up, girl, and you're going to die. And that epiphany was so great. I didn't know what that epiphany meant at the time, other than I literally shut down that entire part of the business with no plan B, 5 children, husband, the whole thing that goes with life, and going, now what am I going to do? And I morphed into running Facebook workshops of all things locally. I'd never wanted to work locally, as you well know.
Yep.
And I morphed because I had to work. So we're learning, we're working on myself, because I finally, had the sledgehammer out to go, hey, Bron, time to wake up. And remembering it's an identity crisis at the same time, let's be honest.
Yep.
Who the hell am I now? And then we hit to February 2023, and I hear the words again, Bron, you have cancer. You have multiple myeloma, which is a blood cancer, and no, it's not curable. Oh, what does that mean? Well, Bron, we've got X amount of years left on this planet, 54 years age, 5 children. And I went, what? How is this possible? And all I prayed for at the time, all I wanted was, please, please give me time. Please give me time to process, because I never had time with the breast cancer. Diagnosis Thursday, mastectomy following Wednesday. What happens again? Bron, we're starting chemotherapy next week. You're going to be needing a bone marrow transplant. You'll be in hospital for a month in Sydney because it's very, very dangerous. What? How could this possibly be? So thank you, universe. Thank you, whoever you want to believe. Smack. Here we go again. Now what? And that's the story, right? And that's where Serenity Project, so finding my Serenity. So the Serenity Project, I am the beta testing. And back, we've been friends for a very long time. I've been wanting to write a book for a very long time. I thought I'd be writing a book for women in business. I actually wrote my first chapter in 2016 in the UK.
You did, didn't you?
I did, right? And I found it 2 years ago, and it was as if I was writing to myself now, yet I'd written it, I don't know how long ago. I'm very terrible with maths. So where that's come about now is when you're in that space of absolute trauma and absolute crises, that's not the time to make big decisions other than your life preserving, insert your ways of treatment. And for me, I embrace these, I don't want to call them lessons because that's just bullshit. They're not lessons. To me, it's these challenges in life, the adversity as it comes, and go, well, how do I want to live? How do I live through this without just, growing vegetables and making sourdough? Like, I'm not fulfilled. So, because it's, stop. No, that's not who I am. So that's where we get to having this conversation, because, when you're standing at a time when you have something so great in front of you, you have not even a split second to decide if you're going to go, man, if I'm going out, I'm going out my way.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, well, okay, well, if that's it, we're done. No, we're not done. And that's where Serenity Project comes, which is, God, grant me serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I always talk about, God, universe, source, and then a Dennis, right? Dennis, mate. Dennis,
You and
give
Dennis,
me serenity here. And so to me, serenity in that space is the courage.
Yeah.
A courage to make a decision when you don't know what the answer is. You don't know what's coming next. You don't know what uncertainty. I live it every single day. When you're in that space, uncertainty can either push you down or we embrace it. So that's where I talk about grief and gratitude in this literally butting up next to each other. How is it even possible?
Yeah.
So here we are. That's how we get to here we are.
Goodness
Sorry
me.
for my long-winded answer.
Oh, no, it was amazing. And I think that was a very big, as you said, answer, but there's so many layers in there that I'd really love for us to break down because, as you said, and she did say it in passing, oh, yeah, I'm the mother of 5. She is the mother of 5 amazing boys. So, all boys, yes, you did hear right. Bron has 5 beautiful boys. So, Bron was already extremely busy doing all the things, being the most amazing mum and wife to her beautiful husband, Paul. So, really busy, and then had her business, all the things. And then, as she's very clearly and beautifully shared, she did get a breast cancer diagnosis, and life took a profound shift. So, that was 2017, wasn't it? The first diagnosis. And then, I was privileged enough to walk alongside Bron and see that terrible, experience, and her at her lowest of lows with the treatment, and then allergic reactions to the chemotherapy. And it was a terrible, terrible time to then get herself back on track and really get to a place where you were thriving again, weren't you? Things
Oh,
were
look,
going well.
yeah, the social coach was the best it ever been, literally the January of when that diagnosis came, the second one.
The second one.
Yeah, it was, yeah, we were going great.
Yeah. So again,
And I was going great too, right? Let's just clarify.
exactly.
I was going great too.
You were healthy
I thought
again.
I
You
was.
were well.
Yeah, I felt great.
You had no indicators of there being anything else wrong. No.
No, and you know what's interesting? It was just that my GP, I'd had low neutrophils. So if everyone knows anything about bloods, neutrophils are part of your white cell count. Neutrophils are the things that fight infection. And I just had low neutrophils for 5 years. And I just put it down to the chemotherapy being nuked with the breast cancer. And my GP said, Bron, I think we should just get a hematologist to check that. So we go to the hematologist. He does all the bloods. I go back to see him. He tells me, great, don't need to see you, Bron. You're perfectly fine. Awesome, cool. To 4 days later to ring me and go, Bron, there's 2 blood results that weren't back that I had no concern about. Well, they're really bad. What does that mean? He knew. I didn't. This was the 14th of January, 2023.
Yeah.
And I was in the middle of onboarding a team member at the time, literally onboarding. So I had to get off the phone of hearing that and go back and keep the onboarding going. And I did it. It was almost like this fragmented, let's use that word again, that fragmentation between the forward-facing Bron and then the Bron here. And it was it was so surreal and then of course you start to Google. Don't do that.
Never Google.
Don't Google it because terminal, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, what? what is going on here? And, trauma, major, major, major trauma again.
Mm. And again, not even related
Not
to
related.
the original diagnosis. So
Nope.
here we are, another cancer, but this time an incurable, as you said, incurable blood cancer. So it's that whole, oh my God, another one.
Yeah.
What's my treatment? What's this? How do I manage all the things? Because by then you had even more to deal with because you
Yeah.
had the business, still the boys, and then faced with a very different treatment path, wasn't it? So can we talk a little about that? Because I know, it wasn't just going and having some chemo. It was you have to pack up your life and move down to Sydney.
Yeah. It was, and I think that's where, because of my past as a nurse educator, remembering I know exactly what's going on. And no, I'm not a hematology nurse. So I didn't understand the blood side of it, but as a patient, I did. And to have to deal with, I knew because I was so familiar with the cancer process and the hamster wheel of when you get into it, that's where I was looking at, oh, you've chosen that treatment, have you? Because there's this big divide between alternative and Western medicine. And that is where I'm going, hang on a minute, it's just treatment. Why do I have to decide? I shouldn't have to be put in a position. I'm already in a position of crisis. And now you're telling me I have to decide? And so my doctor said to me at the time, Bron, ready, this is a marathon. And I actually had an appointment with my specialist yesterday. And I said, do you remember when you said to me, so we're now 3 years.
3 years post-diagnosis.
And 1 month from that diagnosis. I said, do you remember when you told me it was a marathon? And I said, I'm tired of running. No answer. And I said, because cancer markers, Bron, because what they do, because science tells you it's this and that's what they believe, because that's what Western medicine, it has its place. It's the silo. And I asked him some silo questions. And I shouldn't have, because the answer I got was, Bron, well, one day you're just going to come for an appointment and there's going to be a shock. And we're going to be going back into active treatment again. Oh, well, thanks. Is that your answer to my marathon question? And that is why I became the Serenity Project. I'm the project. What could I do that was within my control, within this massive beast of what we call cancer treatment? And, there's so much you can't control. And you can choose, right? Go choose. It doesn't matter what you choose, as long as you choose the right path that is right for you. Exactly. I know people, I spoke to a lady who's not choosing stem cell transplant because she's so fearful of it. I said, well, I've had one. She said, what? I said, yeah, I've had a stem cell transplant. So just so that you know, guys, what that means is that they harvest from you your baby stem cells, which come from your bone marrow, clean them up, and for myeloma, they give you the bastards back. I said, I don't want mine. Can I have someone else's? She said, well, if you have someone else's, you've got a really, really high risk of dying. Ah, damn it. Okay, I'll have my own back. You go into hospital, they give you a horrendous, it's actually the strongest chemo in the world. Yep. It's called Malphilan. 24 hours to the minute, they give you your baby stem cells back through a PICC line. So, all about PICC lines. Yes, and sadly. So they give it back to you. And then what happens with that Malphilan, that chemotherapy, is that it literally kills off your entire white cells. So you have 0.00, no white cells. And I remember when I was heading into that space, I literally, and I'm not overly religious, but I remember that I felt like I was walking into the valley of death. And I was thinking, what does that mean? And it was like a rebirth. They call it rebirth. Oh, it's my first rebirth. I don't do that. People get cakes and balloons and all. They have parties. It's my rebirth. It's my second birthday. And I am grateful for other people to do that. That is not something that I do. So this marathon is a marathon of uncertainty.
Yes.
Everybody has a marathon of uncertainty. It's just that a lot of people, most people don't see it and don't even know they're running. Whereas I was like dumped on, one way to look at this, right, is imagine you and I, Nat, we're standing on the side of an ocean pool. It's a fabulous ocean pool. Someone comes along and goes, "Get in there, Bron, get in that pool." I hate cold water, hate swimming. And now I'm in this pool swimming. That's the pool of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And someone else can have a pool of uncertainty, such as, I want to start a business. I want to take back some control for me. They're going to go, "Oh, I love swimming. I think I might pop in. Bron's in the pool. Can't be that bad." Lovely, lovely dive in the pool, but they're great swimmers. They swam it. They did all the lessons, whereas I didn't do the lessons. I remember in year 7 that there was the 50-meter race. I think I swam like 20 minutes and got 20 meters and I got out. I'm not doing this crap.
Love it.
I've never been in a swimming race since, right? So people who know me, I hate swimming, but I'm in the pool of uncertainty and I am not allowed out. Bron, you will not be getting out. You're going to just keep swimming. Whether the waves go off,
pushing you back in and pushing you back in.
They're going to push you back in. So what the marathon does for me, remembering this is just for me and my experience, this is not anybody else's experience, is that I got to learn to like swimming. I don't want to swim, right? I'm tired of swimming. So what do I do when I get tired of swimming? That's where I find my serenity moments. Because if I looked at the whole thing, it's too overwhelming. Whereas I look at the small things I can do, the courage to find the things I can do, and the wisdom to know the difference. And, it's a lot better than it used to be. And I'm still facing the pool of uncertainty. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. So for those who have had adversity and whether they got pushed into the pool, living through uncertainty is absolutely doable when you spend the time to develop skills that you never thought you'd need, to be honest, aka swimming.
Yeah. And I love that analogy so much. It was a brilliant way to describe it. And I know, there is that pool of uncertainty. It might be a larger pool. It might be, the edge of the ocean bath pool might fall down and you might end up out in the ocean. You don't know.
Yep, correct.
But I think,
well, I'm in the ocean.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in the ocean, but it's just that I see my ocean. You don't see yours yet. And I hope you never do.
And I think that your whole attitude and the way you approach this is, it's so, and I know you don't like this, but inspirational in that you have, you've hated it, but you've got two choices. You fight it and keep going and hate it and you're miserable for the rest of your life, or you embrace it and work out, well, how do I make the most of it? And I think, I'll get you to explain it even better, I'm sure, but how did the Serenity project come about?
Well, it came about before cancer. Okay. So it came about, and well, I'm not going to say where. I had to go, we chose to go to London for some treatment for our family.
Yep.
And I first heard the Serenity prayer and it just made sense. And we were facing adversity at the time. And I thought that I would bring that mindset, because that's what we called it, where in actual fact it's a way of life, to women in business. And I wrote a chapter, as I said, I wrote 5,000 words, 5,000 word chapter of a book in it for what, and I used to call it In Search of Serenity. And then and then of course the cancer came. And I think about it, Serenity was still, I knew Serenity was my place. What I didn't realize is that it's just a moment in time. So when I say serenity, it's search of serenity. A serenity is a moment in time, because that literally is all we have, guys.
Yes.
Is when you have a serenity moment, which is that stillness, that place where you are at ease with yourself without looking back and sure as hell not ruminating and projecting to the future.
Yeah.
Because projection is the killer of everything.
Mm-hmm.
That when you have a moment, because this is one thing that I always finish my own podcast with, which is when the moments, a serenity moment, join together. And those serenity moments make memories. And that is how we make every day count, because they love to tell you, Bron, you've got to make memories. Make your own memories. Don't worry about mine. I'm sweet. I'm great. Why? Because technology changes. Make your own memories.
Yep.
I would get it, and I get offended with that. Don't tell me to make memories. I'm living every moment. Thank you very much. You worry about yourself. I'm A-okay. So that's where that came from, because, and the lesson for that came with my mum having a diagnosis of dementia. And if you've ever had that experience of watching somebody, they call it the long goodbye for a reason, because every time you see them, you're seeing a little bit more and a little bit more. And there's a foot in reality, then there's a foot in their own reality.
Yeah.
And that gap changes, as I know you know, Nat. But what I wrote an article at the time, because remember, master's education, blah, blah, blah. And I wrote an article around dementia, and it was about the moments, which is when we're caring for our family and our friends. And as a nurse, when I'm looking after people with dementia, it's about the moment, because that's all they have. They literally only have the moment.
Exactly.
So don't try to correct that person to, Bron, that's not quite how it was, versus, well, that's not, I think we should do this. No. Focus on the moment, because that is all we have. And that is what serenity is about, is that stillness of time in the moment. This is a moment right now, because the moment,
Absolutely.
then another moment, then another moment. And when you learn that gift, and it's a gift,
it is
of appreciation where grief and gratitude coexist. Doesn't mean I'm not sad, guys. Doesn't mean I don't cry. Doesn't mean I don't feel sorry for myself. Absolutely, I do.
Of course you do. Yes.
But I can't fix that. And for Mrs. Fix It over here, it's been a tough journey not being able to fix things. I fix problems. I literally called Mrs. Fix It.
You were.
So I don't know if that's answered your question.
No,
I hope it did.
It definitely has. And I think, this whole, two things that really stuck out when you were talking for me then were, the serenity and being really clear on why you moved into the Serenity project, and that living in the moment, that we all have these moments, and it's what we choose to do with it. And I think for our listeners who've experienced trauma and are moving into post-traumatic growth, that don't try and focus on what's happened in the past, where you've been, rushing to be who you used to be again, because that person isn't there in the same way.
No.
It's really around living in the moment and making the most of every moment. Now, another thing, Bron, that I wanted to talk to you about is that you've shared a lot about, the various parts of you, the nurse educator, the business owner, the mum of 5 boys, the wife, all the things. The owner and developer of the Serenity project, and you're also a podcast host. And
What the hell was I thinking there? Like, wow, so much work. No one told me that bit. But anyway, moving on.
And Bron and I just did an interview just before we got on today. She interviewed me for her Serenity Rising podcast, and I'll definitely share that when it comes out. And I think one of the things that gets really clear is you've got all these parts of you. What about who you are and the impact of your identity as you've gone through all this changed. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So that's obviously immense change. And I didn't know that I needed to do that until it was thrust upon me. So nursing was around caring for people. If you ask nurses, why do they start? Because they want to care for people. They want to be able to give.
Yeah.
So you give to the best of your ability. And my goal back then was that my patients, when I came on shift, they were way better. They were, when I say better, their pain was under control. Their position of their, literally in that 8-hour or 10-hour shift, is in a better position. If that was my goal. And so it was all about that person, not about me. So I wanted to learn to be a good nurse, but that's what I put values on. Then, of course, the mum and the wife, and I wanted to be the best mother for my children. And I remember my best friend who died at 32, Jamie, we would talk about how we wanted to improve on the previous generation. We wanted to be all the things that our families and our mothers and our parents weren't.
Yeah.
So then you become this perceived, what does a good mum do? Well, she irons everything, doesn't she? And she,
Yeah,
oh
sure.
my God, the
Not
things, the
this one.
pressure I put on myself. And what that did, though, is by doing everything and sugarcoating for my children, what that did was it took away their ability to make a mistake because I was too busy controlling the situation, because I knew, as growing up with your kids versus now, there's no sugarcoating. And Ollie, if your shirt's not ironed, where the iron is, knock yourself out. And he does. Versus the old Bron would have gone, oh, let me. I'm using something so simple, but I want people to understand that my identity, I thought I was being the best version of me. All I did, though, was look after everyone else and then try to control the situation.
Yes.
And then business owner, learning with the mentors, doing the things, growing. I would be more vested in my clients' businesses than they were.
Yes.
And then I learnt that pretty quickly, that I needed to be guided and governed by their ability. But because I have my top strength in life is strategic, so I can see exactly where they want to go and I can see how they can get there, I'd be more invested than they were. And then along came cancer, which is now, Bron, it's time to learn your lessons here, because you can learn your lesson from whatever adversity comes. It's a choice. It is literally a choice.
It is.
And I choose. It's not a silver lining. It's just a shit show. I call it the shit show 2.0 because it's a shit show. But I also don't have any blame and shame, which is what happens when people have these adversity. It must be my fault. What did I do? What did I eat? Oh my God. It must be because I was codependent. I did. No, stop. It's about bad shit happens to good people.
Yes.
That's as far as when I look back, I did the best I could with what I had. And I didn't have the toolbox that I have now. But I made the decision that I was going to learn to put things in my toolbox. And I don't even know if I've answered your question. I don't think I did.
Yes. Well, I think you showed us a lot of insight into who you were, who you are. And as you move through, so you had to morph, you had to change, you learnt as a result of the cancer, shit show 1.0,
well, I chose, it is
and
a choice.
shit show 2.0.
2.0, yeah. A lot of people stay in victim, just so you know, people stay in victim. Yours are my favourite word. When I say victim, what it means is victim would be someone who, it's why this have to happen to me, that damn doctor, blah, 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 blah. And that your brain only believes what you tell it.
Yep.
It really does. So if you say the words to you out loud, and if you're in your head go, oh my God, what's wrong with me? There's something has to be wrong with me. You got cancer twice. What the hell? What have you done? The old saying, did you run over, a person here?
Yes.
Or did you walk under a black
Busload.
cat? Yes. No, I didn't walk under a black cat. Bad shit happens to good people.
Yeah.
That's my belief for me. And I am not wasting any more energy on that past What I'm interested in is now. And the way I talk about that, Nat, is it's like we're playing basketball. You and me, run. Imagine that, right? We're
Yeah,
on the
that'd
court.
be
I used to play
interesting.
basketball. I used to play. I actually played a lot of basketball. So you and I are on the court. I'm in the center. You're a guard. Da, 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 we miss the shot. So the coach pulls us off, and we can either talk about what's just happened and pull it apart, or we can focus on the next play.
Yeah.
Not the whole game, not next season, not next year, but the next play, because that's the important thing. How are we going to play the next play? Well, Nat, you do this and I'm going to do that. And how, because, da, da, da. Do you see the difference? That's
Absolutely.
where I believe from identity. Did I lose myself? I actually liken that to the old Bron, because this Bron was always there. I just didn't slow down or stop enough to go, hey,
Exactly.
what's in here? What's in here, Bron? What is going to bring you joy? Old-fashioned term again, but what's going to bring you joy? And that is where, in your world, Nat, when you're talking about post-traumatic growth, when you talked about going from -5 to 0, the traumatic crisis stage, and then from 0 to 5, which is the post-traumatic stress, at ground zero, this is ground zero, because your gut never lies.
No, and as we've talked about, and as I share a fair bit on the podcast, it's about tuning into our gut brain and our heart brain, because when we go through something traumatic and really challenging, we are often just in our heads trying to work out how to cope, how to go through, how to do the next thing, and we disconnect to keep ourselves safe. But all of that, as we know, gets stuck in our nervous system. So the things that are stuck in your nervous system from years of being the strong one, keeping everything together, me the same, doing all the things and ignoring our own needs and ignoring connecting to ourselves and our gut and our heart space, we've paid a price for, but it's never too late to recognize that we're always only one decision away from the next step, the next best choice, the next best whatever it is. And that is who we become. And, you know, the Bron you are now is so different to the Bron pre-cancer. And isn't that a great thing?
I'm so grateful. How do you be grateful for cancer? I'm not grateful for cancer. I'm grateful that I had enough wisdom and courage, because I'm still learning, guys. I call it the path of healing. You're never there. It's always on the path.
Yeah.
And understanding that you don't know the answers and you don't know how things happen. You know, Kerry Chinna taught me, when you follow these things, that I know I will, I just don't know how. You let go of the how, you just know I will. I know 100% that I will continue learning this stuff. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know why. So I think that's the key, is to listen. And you can't listen if you're racing around looking after everyone else.
Correct.
And then the brick comes, or the shovel on the back of the head, such as what's happened to me. And I'm grateful for that. I wished it wasn't so dramatic, and I wish it didn't have the long-term consequences. But I have made peace with what I cannot change. And technology and science and all of the things will be there to help me, no matter what that path ends up looking like.
Yeah. And if you spend your whole time in that head brain worrying about that path, you miss every one of the moments.
Everyone. So I have this thing where I call it A equals A, which means that something happens. It's a moment in time. Something for me might go to the Cancer Institute, and I have my doctor. So, you know, like that moment in time, like, for example, if I go speak to my doctor and he just flippantly throws out, well, we've just got to wait for the shock, Bron. That kind of comment, you know, what it means in the moment, because what happens in life is that we bring meaning to a situation that wasn't really part of that situation. And it's based on our values, our beliefs, what we learned at school, what's happened in the past. So because I have had nasty diagnoses and I'm going, oh my God, we're going to get another one, I'm going to get another one, versus A equals A, the moment in time, which is just these blood results, and it's just these blood results. Don't attach all of the meaning and making it into an Oscar-winning performance of catastrophe versus, Bron, it's just A equals A. And I consciously tell myself that. Because in here, the brain, it'll start going, oh my God, we've got to go into protective mode here. Bron's in a crisis. She needs quick crisis meeting. Let's get the shitty bitty itty committee together. We've got to have a crisis. No, we don't. It's not a crisis. Hasn't happened. Yeah. And that only comes when you wake up your head and your heart and your soul. You call it intuition. It's my soul. To me, pointing to my belly because I feel that that's where it is. That's just my personal belief. Yeah. And I think that's so important, is to not give meaning to something that is not real.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, it's that future worrying about what may or may not happen. You can't change it. So A equals A does not equal Z.
A does not equal Z. It does not equal B, C, D, E, F, G.
I love that so much. Yeah. So
that's a Kerry Chinner special, you know. And when you find yourself, when your brain's ruminating and it's gone off onto the Oscar-winning role, you consciously say, hey, back it up. Thank you so much, committee. We got this. Crisis committee, crisis averted. Literally, I tell myself that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've shared so many pearls of wisdom, and I'm aware that, you know, we need to probably wrap it up soon. Is there anything else that you could share with our listeners that would help them as they navigate their post-trauma or adversity experiences or around their identity?
You know, my favourite saying, and I can never even remember who said it, that's how good I am with the memory, is be where your feet are. Ooh. Be where your feet are. And if you necessary, literally, when you're finding yourself in one of those moments, I want you to do this. Do a Bron, right? You look down. There's my feet, got the pink toenails, and you're standing on the wooden floorboards with no shoes on. Okay, can you feel that? Can you feel it? Yep. Can you feel your feet tapping? Be where your feet are. Not in the past, not in the future, but literally where your feet are.
In the present, right now, in that moment. I love
in
that.
the moment. That's
Brilliant.
That's it. That's as simple as it gets.
Yeah. What a gift you've given us, really, and absolutely nailed it. Spot on. I love that. So, Bron, as we move to wrapping up this conversation, where can our listeners find out more about you and find you online?
Alrighty. So obviously Serenity Project is serenityproject.com.au. There's a newsletter there, which I would suggest if you're interested in anything I'm saying and thinking, well, it's nothing to do with cancer, but it doesn't matter. You just put it into your own adversity. Obviously online, LinkedIn, socials, Facebook, Insta. Bron Watson is what it's called. Any question on the website, there's actually a little box there, and you can actually leave me a voice message and I reply to every single one of them. So any questions, happy to answer.
Fantastic. And we'll put all of that in the show notes, of course. Now, Bron, and I didn't give you forewarning about this, sorry, but I do like to finish every episode asking one question. What do you think your younger self would think of where you are now and what you've achieved?
My younger self is saying to me, Bron, you are amazing. I'm so proud of you to learn what you're learning, and this is what we are here for. And I thank you for doing that for yourself and for everyone who's listening. And that's what my younger self would say. Rock on, Bron. Well done, you.
Oh, she most certainly would. And
she would go, yeah, rock on, Gen X, but literally.
Yep.
Rock on, because it takes courage, and I'm very proud of myself remembering I do have a prognosis. I do have a number that I was given that I did not ask for. So no matter what, just keep doing the beautiful things that you are. That's what I say.
I love it. So be where your feet are and live in the moment.
Absolutely. That's all we've got.
Wise words. That's all we've got. And thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story and where you're at. And everyone, please head on over to the Serenity Project, because honestly, we all have so much to learn. And check out the Serenity Rising podcast, and I'll share that on my socials as well, so everyone can hear us having a bit of a chat.
Yes.
Again.
Yes, definitely. And thanks
Beautiful.
for having me. I'm really, really grateful to you, my darling friend.
Thank you. Love you so much. Thanks, Bronnie.
You too.
Bye for now. Thank you for spending this time with me on Growing Tall Poppies. My hope is that today's episode has offered you something more than insight, that it's helped you feel a little more connected to who you are now, a little more trusting of your body, and a little more permission to stand tall without shrinking or forcing yourself forward. Post-traumatic growth isn't about fixing yourself or returning to who you once were. It's about understanding how you adapted, honouring your nervous system, and gently choosing what no longer needs to come with you. New episodes of Growing Tall Poppies are released weekly, every Tuesday, and I'd love for you to continue walking this path with us as we explore identity after adversity, integrity and visibility wounds, nervous system wisdom, and what it truly means to grow forward, grounded, aligned, and embodied. If this episode resonated, I invite you to subscribe, follow, share it with someone that you feel might need it, or simply take a quiet moment to reflect on what's ready to move forward for you. You can also find me on Instagram at Dr. Nat Green, on Facebook at Dr. Natalie Green, or over on YouTube at Dr. Nat Green. And remember, you don't need to rush, and you don't need to hide anymore. Stay connected, stay true, and keep standing tall like the tall poppy you are. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.